1 2 1 2. Hey, we got a signal. Welcome to Beacon of Speech. I'm Fred Hunt. Across the table from me is Ted Coley. Hey, Ted Coley.
Hey, Fred. Finally made it, huh?
I am super late. I apologize to Ted on air because I was supposed to be here an hour and a half, 2 hours ago, and I fell asleep. And then I called Ted and I said, "Are you still going to be home?" And he said, "Screw you, Fred Hunt."
Well, that's the thing. I was starting to question, like, whether I gave you the wrong information yesterday.
No.
Because I know I said I'll let you know if anything changes or something like that.
You gave me everything that was fine. It was my fault because I fell asleep. Because I think I might be having some depression. But we're not going to talk about that on air. Okay? But the point of my story is...
And once again, like I said, I question myself.
Oh, yeah.
And once again, it's like I want to tape all of my conversations so I can play them back to make sure
No, you are fine. It is my mistake and I apologize. I'm Fred Hunt, that's Ted Coley.
I'm going to become like Nixon and tape everything.
And me and Ted are 2/3 of Beacon of Speech. The other third is almost always here in spirit, Joe Kaufman. Have you seen Is Joe Kaufman doing good?
Yeah, he seems to be doing okay. I saw him Friday.
Does he miss me? Does he cry that he doesn't get to see me?
Well, yeah, I mean, both Joe and Jen have said many times and recently that they miss you.
That is very warm-hearted. That's very nice.
It's very sweet.
But let's get back to me and you. If you're not here and I'm not here, there is no Beacon of Speech, right? Now, we are both in our 40s. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And
I'm almost out of my 40s.
We have a fairly good working relationship, and we have known each other for 15 years. Is that correct?
Yes.
Since about 30.
Yeah,
now,
around there.
The reason I bring that up is, are you familiar with the band? I know you are, but I'm going to set it up. Are you familiar with the band Pink Floyd?
Yes.
Now, are you a big Pink Floyd fan or a Pink Floyd hater?
I'm like in the middle.
Really?
I don't hate them, but they're not like my favorite band. But I have an appreciation for them.
This week, as far as I'm concerned, I had a friend, his name is Dave Wayland, super nice guy, right? I don't talk to him very much, but I'm friends with him on Facebook.
What's his name, Wayland?
Wayland, yeah. And his favorite band was Pink Floyd. He used to listen to Pink Floyd all the time, and he used to tell me all the time, "Fred, Pink Floyd is the greatest band ever created." But as soon as Roger Waters left, Pink Floyd is not Pink Floyd anymore. Yeah. It might say Pink Floyd, but it's not Pink Floyd. Okay, I don't care. No, Fred, you gotta understand. What Roger Waters did is he left, and then he did Radio Chaos, and then David Gilmour went on, and then they went to court, and Pink Floyd wasn't a... Listen, I don't like Pink Floyd. I don't care. And that's not true, because I like Pink Floyd. They're okay. I just didn't want to hear about the court case.
Yeah.
Right? And then he's like, "Oh, but Fred, ever since Sid Barrett, ever since he went crazy, the best of Pink Floyd was The Wall." And he would go on and on about Pink Floyd. And I'd be rolling my eyes at him like, I don't care. Right? I don't care who Pink Floyd is. He's like, "No, you gotta listen to Roger Waters. Go listen to..."
Now, how long ago was this?
Oh, geez. This would be in the 80s.
Okay. Because it seems like back then a lot of kids were like that. I don't know if kids are like that now.
I don't think they are.
Where they're like defending a band like it's part of their family or something.
Right. Because in the old days, Van Halen's not the same since... they joined, since Sammy Hagar came. It's like, well, yeah. There's nobody arguing that the band was better with Sammy Hagar, right? And nobody was arguing, except for Dave Wayland, that Roger Waters was 100% of Pink Floyd. But I'm setting it up for a reason. What year is this?
2016.
See, that's an easy question. Dave Wayland and I had this conversation in the 80s, okay? I want you to read what I'm circling on the outline today. This is the headline that I read in Rolling Stone magazine this week. Go ahead and read the part that's circled.
Pink Floyd reunites.
Okay. Pink Floyd is reuniting. Okay?
I almost thought it said Pink Floyd re-unties.
It probably does say
I'm becoming
re-untied.
dyslexic.
Sid Barrett is dead. Okay?
Yes.
Who's the other guy who just died? The bass player. Or not the bass player, but somebody else in Pink Floyd died.
Is it Mason or...
Someone died. Someone died in Pink Floyd. And then David Gilmour said, in the interest...
There is a Mason in Pink Floyd, right?
Yes.
Okay.
But one of the members of Pink Floyd died, and they said as far as he was concerned, that Pink Floyd was over. Okay?
Who said this?
David Gilmour. But when one of the members of Pink Floyd died, he went back in the guy's attic, and in the attic he had a whole bunch of keyboard and bass just sounds. Like, oh, I'm gonna, play my instrument and record it for fun. So Dave Gilmour took this instrumentation, and then he made a brand new Pink Floyd album. It came out earlier this year called The Endless River, and it's not bad. But all it is smooth jazz. That's all it is. Slow instrumentation. The Endless River. Pink Floyd goes off into the sunset. Roger Waters had literally zero to do with it. Okay? I'm like, how? They all have to be approaching 70. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so.
So you just put out an album of smooth jazz. And
I think a couple of them at least might be in their early 70s.
Right. But I guess they have mutual friends. They have mutual friends, and they want to do some animal charity or raise some money for some animal abuse charity. So they're going to reunite for a couple of shows, and some of the money will go towards the charity. Now, that's all well and good, but at some point, you got to let it go.
Mm-hmm.
You hate each other. How many times do you think that David Gilmour has sued Roger Waters? And how many times do you think Roger Waters has sued David Gilmour? You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
At some point, when you have more dead band members than living ones, and you guys hate each other, they said the last time Pink Floyd reunited, I'm using air quotes, the last time they reunited, Roger Waters literally, as soon as the song was over, he dropped the instrument on the ground, ran off the stage, jumped in his limo, drove away, was to the airport before the rest of the guys were done doing the encore. I mean, he could not get out of there fast enough.
Why is that? I mean, why does he still have so much, animosity?
I don't know. You have to ask Roger Waters, but again, if they were best friends and they're like, oh, well, it's my chance to, it's a chance to, see my friend David Gilmour. But that's not the case. I think in his head, he still thinks I'm Pink Floyd. And if anything that says Pink Floyd, I'm gonna be there to show that I'm Pink Floyd, not David Gilmour.
Well, my thing is that I don't know. I know a little bit about Pink Floyd. I don't know enough about them to know what the original reason was that he left. Roger Waters left, right?
Right.
After, what was it, the final cut?
Yes. But he thought that...
And why did he leave?
He left because he basically wanted to be Axl Rose. I'm the lead singer, and whatever I do, I just have these guys listen to me. And David Gilmour and the other guys were like, no, we're a band. And then I think the three, it wasn't just David Gilmour, but he was the ringleader. The three of them sued Roger Waters for the name.
Yeah.
Roger Waters sued them not to use the name.
Well, Roger Waters obviously lost then, right?
Roger Waters obviously lost in court, and that's correct.
The other guy, what was his name, Wright?
Yes.
Is that correct? I don't know what his first name is.
But Roger Waters...
It's not Stephen Wright, is it?
No. But Roger Waters, he would continue, right? He would continue playing The Wall. He's like, I wrote The Wall. And he's like, someone would be like, Roger Waters performs The Wall.
It's like a bunch of 5-year-olds.
Yes. And there's a reason that I bring that up first, okay? Because we're going to delve into this. If they're all 70, why are we still talking about Pink Floyd? Me and you.
Yeah.
The reason is...
I could see all of them like in an old age home, like wheeling around in wheelchairs and like
Yeah, just bumping
arguing.
into each other and knocking each other's wheelchairs over. But that's the whole thing. And that's where I'm going. The other thing that pissed me off this week, and this is going to lead into Trump and Clinton, is Bob Dylan won the Nobel Prize this week. Okay?
It's about time.
Bob Dylan is 70. Okay? And do you know what he won the Nobel Prize in?
Something to do with, I guess, literature, or...
He won the Nobel Prize in literature.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, how many books has Bob Dylan
I assumed
written?
it wasn't the Nobel Peace Prize.
No. Because when I heard it, I'm like, I didn't know there was a Nobel Prize in music. And they're like, oh, no. Nobel Prize in literature. They said, his lyrics are an American art form. And I'm like, oh, it just makes me sick. Okay? Now, Bob Dylan, I'm not saying he's not good to other people, but I think he's horrible. Okay? And for 40 years, Rolling Stone magazine has come out and said Bob Dylan is the greatest. Basically, he has a microphone. It's not his microphone, but he has this entity. Rolling Stone magazine says that he's the greatest American artist in history. Okay? Now, it's just not true. It's flat out not true. All these people are getting the awards driven by this music media conglomerate, which is Rolling Stone magazine. Okay? How in the world did he win the Nobel Prize for literature? I mean, to me, it's stunning, but it's all these old rock critics who are now in their 60s and 70s saying, oh, this new music stinks. It's not like it was when Bob Dylan. It's like...
Well, I think one of the big things with him is the number of musicians that he influenced.
Right.
I mean...
Well, and I'm going to pick on Rolling Stone some more. Bob Dylan released an album, I think it was in 2009. And, again, not back in the 60s, in 2009. And at the end of 2009, Rolling Stone magazine said only one artist gets 5 stars, which is the perfect album. Guess who it was?
Bob Dylan.
Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan at 60 did not write the best rock album of 2009 or 2010 or 2011. You see what I'm saying? Now, the reason I bring this up is because, and you're going to see where I'm going in about 10 seconds. Rolling Stone is pushing an agenda. Rolling Stone's agenda is, oh no, the best rock and roll is the rock and roll from the 60s or 70s. How many times do they come out with lists and they're like the greatest rock guitarists, and 9 out of the 10 top rock guitarists are from the 60s and 70s? The 10 greatest lead singers are all from the 70s and 80s. To Rolling Stone, as soon as Nirvana came out, rock and roll was over. Right? Now they still follow rock and roll or pop or whatever they do, but their agenda is to say the greatest time in rock history is Beatles, Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, Bob Dylan. You know, this time is worthless. Now, you might agree. Okay?
That's what I'm sitting here thinking.
Yeah. Well, but you might agree, but you are not driving the agenda. Now, would you have given Bob Dylan any kind of literature award?
No.
No.
No, I wouldn't have.
All these media people, again, they influence the Nobel Prize, people.
But at the same time, I wouldn't have given Obama the Nobel Peace Prize when he hadn't done anything.
Oh, yeah. But the reason I bring up the media driving things is I don't know why Rolling Stone magazine has this giant Bob Dylan is the greatest artist, but they're the ones driving the bus. You see what I'm saying? Now, the reason I bring that up is I firmly believe that if Rolling Stone didn't roll out and literally say all 60 of Bob Dylan's albums were perfect, that they would not have won the Nobel Prize. That he would not have won the Nobel Prize. Okay? Now, at the same time, I read an article this week on CNN, the number one caption was, "Is the media in the tank for Clinton?" Okay? Now,
Where was this?
the lead story on CNN.
Yeah.
Now, if we went into the CNN newsroom, okay, and we found 100 reporters, teleprompter writers, interns, out of 100 people at CNN, how many would you guess are voting for Clinton? Just for a round number.
Out of 100?
Out of 100.
I'll say 90.
Yeah, I would say 95. Okay? Now, CNN says, is there a media bias? They're like, oh no, we cover the thing equally. Well, no, you don't. Because you hire people to move the CNN agenda.
Yeah.
And you want to move the CNN agenda, so you hire like-minded people, and then the like-minded people all hate the Republican candidate and like the Democrat candidate.
Yeah, it seems like the majority of news nowadays isn't reporting to you what happened. It starts with an agenda, and then they just pick the stories to support that agenda.
Right. And so I used the Rolling Stone example. Maybe I wasn't fleshing it out correctly, but Rolling Stone, I have a hard time believing that they have a lot of 25-year-olds on their staff. They got an old bunch of guys who love Bob Dylan, and they all sit in a room jerking each other off, talking about how Bob Dylan's... And then in the interview process, they're like, oh, Johnny O died. Okay? Well, now they're interviewing new people.
I just picture a bunch of, like, smelly old hippies.
Yeah, smelly old hippies. And what they do is they need another writer. They need another music writer. Okay, we're going to hire this guy, Joe Smith, or they're going to hire Fred Hunt. Joe Smith goes, you know who my favorite artist is? Bob Dylan. And they're like, we like Joe Smith. And then Fred Hunt comes up and he goes, you know who I like? Anthrax. And they're like, holy crap! You know what? You go work for...
you go pound salt.
You go pound salt. You work at Maximum Rock and Roll or something like that. And it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So when CNN says, we're not in the tank for Clinton, it's disingenuous because they're hiring like-minded people. And it's the same... And I don't mean to pick on CNN, but they're the ones asking the question.
Yeah.
Is the media in the tank? And I think at the end of the article was like, we're not in the tank for Clinton. If Trump wasn't so horrible, we wouldn't report it. No, you naturally lean that way, and then it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Yeah. You are not hiring people who are thinking different than the CNN corporate mindset. You are not hiring when CNN is like any other corporation, and Ted's going to roll his eyes at me, but they're like any other corporation. They're like, we tell you what to do, and then you're like, oh no, we think you're right. And you're like, I'm going to hire that guy. Corporations, by definition, don't like free thinkers.
Yeah.
How many free thinkers?
They say they do.
Yeah. Well, we're looking for the best and brightest.
You know, the outside the box, another one of my favorite expressions.
Yeah. And so CNN's like, oh, we're purposely not prejudiced. Well, in their minds, they're not, because they're like, oh, well, if Trump wasn't so evil.
Yeah.
Now, do you think I'm on the right track, or do you think I'm off base?
No, I think you're on the right track.
And again, I follow libertarian websites, okay? And it's the same thing. CNN's like, well, where did you used to work? Oh, well, I used to work at the Daily Liberator, at the libertarian website. And they're like, we don't want any libertarians here. You're out the door. All these companies want free thinkers, but at the end of the day, what they hire is what they are looking for, which is their agenda. Yeah. And they want people who are going to support their agenda.
Yeah, see, they consider themselves free thinkers, and then they hire people who think like them.
Right.
So they're free thinkers too.
Yeah. We're free thinkers and they're free thinkers. And if Trump wasn't so evil... Now, don't get me wrong. Trump... And you mentioned it before we started, and this is where I wanted to circle back to, because I wanted to start with music and work back into politics. Right now, the media is piling on. okay? Sharks in the water, whatever,
Mhm.
okay? They are on Trump, okay? Now,
And then, to be honest, they would have done that with whoever the Republican
oh yeah,
candidate was.
yeah,
And in a way, I'm one of the reasons I'm glad Trump is the Republican nominee is because I think he can take it better than any of the other guys who would have been. You know what I'm saying?
oh yeah, yeah,
The other guys I would have felt more sorry for.
yeah,
But him, I think he can handle it.
right. And that's why it's all disingenuous. It's all a game. And one of the things that really bothers me about this election is WikiLeaks. They leaked out 2,000 more emails. Nobody's covering it, Ted.
Yeah.
Do you hear anything about WikiLeaks?
I hear a little.
Right. But I went online myself. I went to wikileaks.org and I'm looking through these emails. 2,000 emails, right? I'm going to tell you something. Again, I've been falling asleep a lot lately, okay? I'm looking at wikileaks.org and it's like a 2-sentence thing. It's like the Russians got an email and it'd be like hacking me and you emails. It was like, oh yeah, we got a big meeting Thursday. And they're like, oh, I hope we don't beat the meeting into the ground about trade agreements. And that was one of the things they stole. I'm like, that is literally worthless. So I would go to the next one. Right?
So WikiLeaks is Julian Assange,
Yes.
is it?
Yes.
And is he in Russia or
No, he is in. Oh, let me see if I can get this straight.
But there's a Russia connection, right?
No.
Or at least they think
No.
there is?
No, there's not a Russian connection. Let me tell you what it is, okay? Assange is in Europe, and he is in the Ecuador.
Because you've heard that
the Democrats.
the Democrats think it's Russia.
Yes.
So they think all these leaked emails is Russia doing it?
Right.
And you know what's funny? You know what? You watched the debate, right?
Right.
You know what Hillary's argument is? Well, Trump loves Putin.
Right.
It's like, so that's your defense of all those emails that had,
Well, but that's where I'm going. Let me answer your first question about Assange. First of all, he is in the Ecuadorian
embassy
in Sweden or Norway.
Oh, okay. That's where it is. It's not like Great Britain or.
I don't think so. I think it's a Scandinavian country.
Okay.
It could be Denmark.
Okay.
Now, the Democrats all are saying, listen.
How the hell did he end up there?
We don't want to talk about it here because it'll put people, the 5 people who listen, it's going to put them to sleep. Okay? The Democrats are all saying, listen, ignore everything that guy says. He's working for the Russians. But he's not. He's an independent voice, and he's screwing them. And so they're like, oh, he must be working for the Russians because he's screwing us. No, you guys left out all your emails. Now, granted, and this is what bothers me about WikiLeaks, they stole 2,000 worthless documents. It'd be like, Ted, what are you doing Friday? You want to do Beacon of Speech? I hope we don't talk about Trump again. And then we leave it on a secure server, and then WikiLeaks steals it, and then they put it up, and they said Americans need to know what Fred and Ted are talking about. It's like,
now, is that how WikiLeaks was able to get those emails because it was on Hillary's unsecured server?
Yes.
So if she would have used the government server, they probably wouldn't have been able to hack into
Correct.
it?
But again, they like stole Podesta stuff, right? Leon Podesta or whatever.
Yeah.
The point is that I read literally 40 of them, and I fell asleep, Ted. I'm reading them. I'm like, where is all the juice? You know what I mean? I want to be the guy on Beacon of Speech who said, I found email 1,874, and it actually had something to do with something. And even today, it came out on some reporter is running through all 2,000 emails, not at CNN, but some other channel, right? And they came up and they said that Hillary Clinton said the 2 best candidates and again, this is Hillary Clinton, the 2 best candidates for her to go against because she could destroy them because they were so awful were, name the two candidates. This would be in the primaries.
In the primaries?
Yeah.
Bernie Sanders?
Oh, no, on the Republican side. I'm sorry.
Okay, the two best candidates.
To destroy.
For Hillary Clinton
yes.
to destroy. Ted Cruz?
Ted Cruz is one. And who's two?
I guess Trump.
Trump, yep. She said that those two have so many personality and policy deficiencies that if she faced either one of them, she could destroy them. And then she said that it would be hard for her to destroy Jeb Bush, and that was the number one guy they didn't want to face because he was a good guy. His policies were similar to hers,
yeah.
which is why he didn't make it.
Yeah.
And she said that she has respect for the way he does business, his professionalism. Yeah.
Is that a compliment?
But that whole email sums up the election. People are pissed. That's why they didn't vote for Jeb Bush. If they
that's what's funny. It's like all these Republican senators and congressmen and party people who are so pissed off about Trump. It's like you are the reason Trump is there.
Yes.
Because people are so fed up with you. If you have a problem with Donald Trump, look in the mirror.
Yeah.
You are the one who put him there.
Yes. And so I'm reading, and again, this is from WikiLeaks. And then, of course, Clinton's defense is the Russians shouldn't be in our election. Well, what about, again, you want to shoot the messenger. You don't want to go back and say, what about the substance, about you acknowledge that the American people are pissed off. And you are angling towards these two guys. You said these are the two easiest guys to destroy.
You know, and the thing is that, I'm a Trump supporter.
Right.
But like what I just said, I'm not even defending Donald Trump.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't matter who he is or what he is. The Republicans are the ones who created Donald Trump. Whether he's good, bad, or indifferent,
right?
It's their fault.
Yes. Yes. They have no one to blame but themselves.
Yes.
And then, like I said, I want to write an article for Beacon of Speech. I want to do the blog. I want to find somebody who I gained respect for at this. Okay? Because all the Democrats do is say how horrible Trump is. Now, I'm not saying that he's not horrible. Okay? I want to be very clear. But like you said, they are piling on. Mm-hmm. They're like, we're the best candidate ever to roll out. If people weren't pissed, Donald Trump wouldn't be polling at 40%. Again, and I read this on one of the libertarian...
So you're saying if people weren't pissed, Donald Trump wouldn't even be there.
Right.
Yeah.
And I read something. It was a guy from... It was some libertarian guy, but he's from Europe, right? And he said the Americans really F things up, okay? And he said, and of course he wanted Gary Johnson, right? And of course that's what I read, and apparently I levitate. Like some of my best friends on Facebook are people who are libertarians, and you gravitate. Apparently I'm as bad as CNN. Like this time of year, I'm like, oh yeah, I like that comment. That guy posted a libertarian thing, right? But he said that the Americans literally took one of the most experienced politicians, corrupt as she is, and ran her against one of the, most well-known business people, corrupt as he is. And they said if they would have just trotted somebody out who had some experience in politics and some experience in business, they said they could win 70% of the electorate. And they said, but all the politicians got mad and said, we're going to trot out our most experienced politician. And then everybody rebelled and said, we want America run as a business. We're going to... And again, not one of our best businessmen, one of our most famous businessmen. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, he's the Kim Kardashian of...
The Kim Kardashian of businessmen.
Mm-hmm.
And again, now, he's had a lot of allegations over the last week. But again, the we're going to tread lightly because me and Ted actually had a 5-minute pre-huddle on this. But I want to tiptoe around this, okay? Because I don't want to get dragged into the mud. Mm-hmm. But it seems suspicious that all of this is happening 20 days before the election. Yeah. And I'm not saying that this is true. I'm not saying whether it's false. Even if they're all true, why weren't these ladies coming in the primary? Mm-hmm. Why weren't they coming out in New Hampshire? You know, when there were 17 people on the stage, and they said Donald Trump was leading. I can't remember if it was New Hampshire or Iowa, but they said he was winning. And it's like, where were these women? All these allegations happened in the 1900s and the 2000s. You see what I'm saying? Now, the media is digging. Okay? Now, it goes back to the agenda. Well, why weren't you digging a year ago? You're the media. Your job is to find this crap out when he starts to run. Not, holy cow, our guy, or in our case, our gal, you know, she's in a tight race. Now we have to destroy Trump. Okay? And again, it goes back to agenda-driven. If somebody comes up to your door and they're crying, they're like, you know, Donald Trump raped me. You know, I understand that. But the media is literally like, I read that they are digging hard. Why weren't you digging hard a year ago? Mm-hmm. This is a presidential election. What were you doing? Were you covering Mike Huckabee and who were some of the other also rans? I almost said Lindsey Buckingham.
Lindsey Graham. Lindsey
Graham, right? Who's the guy who dropped out before Bernie Sanders? There were like 3 Democrats.
Oh, yeah. God, I can't remember his name.
Well, but that's the whole thing, Ted. There were 17 people running on... how many people talk about Carly Fiorina anymore?
Oh, man, I forgot about her.
Yeah. And the whole thing is, what have you been doing for the last year? Now you're going to take all your resources to try to destroy Trump. You should have been doing your homework from day one. And I'm not, again, I can't stress enough. People are like, Fred, you hate Trump too. I do. But the way they play the game, it shows how... this election has shown me so much about bias. It's unbelievable.
See, and they probably had all this dirt on him, and they just sat on it.
Yeah. Well, some of it I think they did sit on until the right time. But again, yesterday, I read on the Drudge Report, okay? Mike Drudge came out. Are you familiar with the Drudge Report?
Yeah.
That guy's a Republican who leans to the right, but he said nobody is talking about Hillary Clinton. And he said, not only is she corrupt, not only does she have a sham marriage, what does she do when Bill's not around for 2 months, right? And he said, this week, he goes, I am so disgusted by the way the media is slanted against Trump. I'm going to release a story on Hillary, and I don't care if it gets picked up by 2 people. He said that it's not fair that they can literally dig on Trump. And they dig on Bill Clinton because they don't dig on this lady who's literally throwing... He's like, those WikiLeaks things, you know, they all show what dirty pool they play. And again, the Democrat Party in the WikiLeaks things say what they feed to the media. They dictate the curriculum to the media. And again, Ted, how many times have you said when things don't get my way, it's not because of right or wrong, it's because I'm jealous? And I think I'm jealous that when I talk, I don't have people behind the scenes moving beacon of speech for us. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, I need somebody to come out and say, you know what, beacon of speech is the only right opinions there are. All your opinions are wrong. What you need to be doing is doing beacon of speech. and moving eyeballs to us. We are our own worst PR firm, Ted.
What? Beacon of Speech?
Yeah, me and you. But I wanted to circle back to this. Beacon of Speech is me and Ted, and to a lesser extent Joe. Because in my head, Joe is coming back. You know what I mean? He's like your kid who went away to college. Okay? Joe is coming back. Okay? You might not think so, but I in my heart, Joe's coming back. Okay? Now, if one day...
Does your wife think so?
No, she thinks that I bother Joe a lot. She's like, you need to leave poor Joe alone. But going back to the Pink Floyd analogy, right? One day you're like, you know what, Fred? If you say Gary Johnson one more effing time, I'm going to kick you in the teeth. I'm going to do Beacon of Speech. You're not invited. And then me and Joe are going to do it, right? And then I'd be like, screw you, Ted Coley, I'm Beacon of Speech. And then you'd be like, well, guess what, Fred? After the one show, you fell asleep, and then I wrote up, I am Beacon of Speech. And then right afterwards, you got rid of Joe, and then you got two young guys out of college. And you're like, listen, you two are going to pretend like you're Fred and Joe, but I'm gonna move the agenda, and, you know, I am Beacon of Speech, just me. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And that could still happen. I'm looking at Ted, and it looks like the little light bulb went on above his head. He's like, yeah, I could get rid of Fred. Oh, is someone here? Ted hears something.
No, I'm hearing ringing.
Oh, that might be my ears.
You hear that?
I hear ringing in my ears, yeah.
No, I think that's my phone.
Oh, yeah, someone's talking. Do you want to grab that?
No.
Okay. Yeah, I do. It was ringing. I'm sorry. But anyhow, but the agenda, again, it's agenda driven. And like I said, one day, maybe I'll be like that. Maybe I'll be like CNN. I'll be like, I'm going to get rid of Ted. I'm going to hire an 18-year-old. He's just going to, sit there like did you ever see the movie Major League?
Oh, yeah.
Bob Uecker, they're like, he's got a new partner. Bob Uecker doesn't let him talk. And I'll be like, oh, screw it. I'm going to take a picture of Ted, I'm going to put it on the wall, and I'm just going to talk straight through for an hour and a half.
I just remember what Bob Uecker was drinking during the games.
Uh-huh.
And he had like a bottle of whiskey, and he took like his finger and he like ran it around the rim of the bottle and then put it behind his ear.
Yeah. And so, like I said, as of now, we're going to start with us and work our way up. We're going to go to the lowest common denominator, which is us, right? We don't have an agenda, to my knowledge, okay? Do you have an agenda? Are you trying to...
Yeah, not that I know of, but...
My agenda is one day we get paid. Me and you, okay? Other than that, I don't have an agenda. The thing that bothers me is the same thing that always bothers me at my core is corporations, right? And literally, and part of this is, growing up listening to punk music and stuff. Corporations put on a big smiley face, a big fake cover, and then behind the scenes, it's all lies. It's all flat out lies. And the people who win the game are the people who play the game the best.
Yep.
Not the people who tell the truth.
Or work hard.
Work hard. And just flat out. Now, not all corporations are like that, but I'm doing a broad brush.
Just everyone, all the ones we get involved with.
All the ones that we're familiar with. But again, maybe I'm jealous. I'm jealous that me and you are not the top of the Beacon of Speech Corporation. And they're like, well, Fred, if you two were running it, you'd hire a whole bunch. I don't think I would, because Joe doesn't really think like us. That's why I love Joe. Joe's awesome, right? And that's why I like having him around. We drone on for 20 minutes about Trump, and he goes, I'm sick of talking about Trump. Let's talk about, remember that time when we were 19 and got drunk, right? But you need that. That's why Joe is a good third thing, so you don't beat things in the ground, because I do. Ted's laughing because he knows it's true.
No, several times you've used the phrase beating a dead horse.
Yeah.
And I just picture you literally beating a dead horse. And it's
One day I am going to be
an actual dead horse.
Yeah, it will be a dead horse. But again, going from bottom up, Rolling Stone seems to set the agenda for a lot of music. Thought. And I'm like, well, this whole Bob Dylan thing, who out there besides Rolling Stone magazine is out there championing Bob Dylan?
Well, George Harrison was up until he died.
Yeah,
Because they asked him probably a few years before he died, are there any artists today that you like? And he said, Bob Dylan.
And like I said, I listen to old artists. Again, how many times have I said I've been addicted to Miles Davis? Okay? How many people do you know, our age, me and you, how many people our age do you know who's going home listening to Bob Dylan albums when they're done at work?
No, none that I know of.
None. Because they don't exist. How many people are buying these new Bob Dylan albums? A bunch of old hippies that either work for Rolling Stone magazine or WVIZ, the PBS station. They literally buy one album every 3 or 4 years. It's a Bob Dylan album. It's the same one they've been buying since 1974, and they're like, he's breaking new ground. He just told a story about Duluth. Let me tell you a secret about Bob Dylan, okay? I have a friend who lives in Duluth, okay? And
that's where he's from, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
I knew he was from Minnesota.
Yeah, he's from Duluth. And supposedly he's Duluth's favorite son. Well, my friend runs a pirate station in Duluth. And I said, is Bob Dylan really Duluth's favorite son? He goes, not around here. He hasn't been in Duluth in 40 years. Yeah. You know, it's almost like they're trying to attach their name to him, but he doesn't go back and visit Duluth. He's like Prince, okay? Prince was a favorite son of Minneapolis, and he would go to New York, he would go to Rio, he would go to LA, but he kept a home in Minneapolis. He always went back to Minneapolis. I am Minneapolis. I am Minnesota, right? Bob Dylan's like, I'm about Americana. He's like, and people would be like, are you from Duluth? He'd be like, yes, because it was a fact. But he wasn't all about Minnesota. He could, according to my friend in Minnesota, Bob Dylan could not get out of Minnesota fast enough. And he doesn't go back. Here's another good analogy. My dad, he had a lot of friends who were Steelers fans because he used to drive to Pittsburgh all the time. Terry Bradshaw was one of the most beloved Steelers of all time. Well, once he left Pittsburgh after he retired, he's like, I ain't going back to Pittsburgh. That place sucks. Right? And then he became a big Fox broadcaster and stuff. He could not stay away from Pittsburgh. He's like, well, at the end of the day, I'm from Louisiana. I'm not really from Pittsburgh. And so there's a real love-hate relationship because he puts on public airs like, oh no, Pittsburgh is my second home. But he doesn't go back there.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like to hear a nice, boring story about our producer from the movie Blasphemers?
The producer?
Yeah. Aunt Jan, my sister.
Yeah.
My sister, Jeanette, she helped produce Blasphemers, the movie, and she did all the behind-the-scenes camera work. Well, my sister went to the Pittsburgh Institute of Art. If you want to hire her, she's got a lot of talent. Okay? She has her own webpage. You can connect to her Fine Art America page on the Beacon of Speech link page.
Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah. Okay. So when she went to Pittsburgh Institute of Art, one of the things they taught her is when you work for a newspaper or you work for a magazine, inevitably you're going to have to get pictures of famous people. And they said it's part of the business. It's a dirty little secret. Okay? Your homework in one of her classes was find a Pittsburgh celebrity and get a good picture of them. Did I tell you this story before?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, you'll get a kick out of it. How many Pittsburgh celebrities do you know off the top of your head?
How many Pittsburgh celebrities?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
How many celebrities can you think of from Pittsburgh?
Isn't Donnie Iris from Pittsburgh?
Yes. See, classic rock right there. Donnie Iris. Now, the only person I can think...
Then you won't say he's like the Michael Stanley of Pittsburgh?
The Michael Stanley of Pittsburgh. And then the people in Pittsburgh say that, Michael Stanley is the Donnie Iris of Cleveland. So, but
I mean, you know who else I think isn't Michael Keaton from Pittsburgh?
that's why I was. That's exactly where I'm going.
See the things I know.
So, in my mind, I'm thinking Terry Bradshaw, Mario Lemieux, Dave Parker of the old Pittsburgh Pirates,
yeah.
right? But I'm not thinking celebrities. I can't think of any, right? And my sister, she's like, oh no, Michael Keaton, just like you said. Michael Keaton is the biggest celebrity that I can think of in Pittsburgh. So Michael Keaton, and I'm sorry to Michael Keaton for telling this story, but Michael Keaton was the biggest celebrity that she knew, that she could think of. So around the holidays, she had to do this class, take a picture of celebrity. So she looked up on the internet where Michael Keaton's parents lived, and then she went across the street and sat in her car behind some bushes waiting for him to come home, assuming he'd come home for Christmas. And sure enough, she said, I spent the day in my car waiting for Michael Keaton. Then he came home, I came out of the car, and I took a picture of him, and I got an A in my class.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So he actually did
He came home for Christmas. So, but I don't know if he came straight from the airport or say he was home for a week. She just caught him when he came back from, Aunt Susie's or something.
No, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, but that, that's being a stalker.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Be a stalker in college.
I was going to say, that's...
And so even though my sister did that, and she got an A in the class, and the teacher said, good job on tenacity.
I mean, nothing against your sister, but you can see why celebrities get paranoid.
Yes.
Because somebody's coming out from behind a bush. It could be your sister, or it could be,
Yeah, it could be
Mark David Chapman.
Yeah, Mark David Chapman or Crazy Aunt Jan.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's why,
What I'm saying is your sister is obviously harmless. She has a camera. But the celebrity doesn't know if it's your sister with a camera or Mark David Chapman with a gun.
Right, exactly. Oh, no, I see what you're saying. You're exactly right. I'm not sure my sister's totally harmless. I'm not convinced that... She's not going to shoot you. But she might have been like, Michael Keaton, you need a personal assistant. Here's my resume. Here's my brother did a movie. Take my headshot, please. So when I say she's harmless, she doesn't have any weapons. Let's put it that way, Ted. We'll leave it at that. But yeah, so I never told you that story?
No, I think I would have remembered that one.
Yeah. So, but the point of the story is that everybody has an agenda. And the media dictates the agenda.
Now, by any chance, did Michael Keaton, did he go to Kent State?
Oh, that I don't know.
Okay.
I just know he lived in Pittsburgh.
Didn't Joe Walsh go to Kent State?
Yes, I'm 99% sure Joe Walsh.
I assume he got kicked out of there, right?
Yeah, I assume so too.
I hope so.
I don't want to speak out of turn. Yeah. So, let me make a quick, let me make a couple more comments about Trump. Yesterday, they did a skit on Trump, and Alec Baldwin did Trump, okay? Donald Trump came out today, October, whatever the hell today is, October
16th.
16th. He came out today, and he said, Alec Baldwin, 1, is not funny. Number 2, Alec Baldwin missed on the imitation, right? Number 3, SNL should be canceled.
Canceled.
Okay? Now, this is why it's so easy for people not to like Donald Trump, okay? Number 1, Alec Baldwin is hilarious, okay? I've said it on Beacon of Speech before. He recaptured the spirit of Match Game, which was really hard to do.
Yeah.
Alec Baldwin and Tina Fey on 30 Rock, which has only been canceled 3 years. It's only 3 or 4 years. That's literal comedy gold, okay? Alec Baldwin is hysterical. He might be an a-hole. Okay, now if Donald Trump came out and said Alec Baldwin was an a-hole, I'd be like, yes.
You can agree with
Yes, I can agree with you, but don't say he's not funny because he's hilarious. And talking about Michael Keaton, he's in one of the biggest comedy gems of all time, Alec Baldwin's in Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
And I mean, as far as I'm concerned, Alec Baldwin is like one of the best highbrow actors, comedic actors out there, just period. So Donald Trump is just being an a-hole. Now, if he said Alec Baldwin's being an a-hole, that's true. But Donald Trump's like, oh no, that sucks. Now, number two, Alec Baldwin wasn't funny. Yes, he is. Alec Baldwin did not capture Trump. No, he did. The reason it's so funny is because that is spot on. If you don't see yourself, Donald, if you don't see yourself in the Alec Baldwin imitation, you really have a mental problem. That you deny everything.
But that's what's part of what makes Donald Trump funny.
Right.
Is that he doesn't see anything.
Yeah, he doesn't see any of this. He's like, that Alec Baldwin imitation isn't anything like me. It's like, it's spot on. Alec Baldwin is spot on.
Now, don't you think Donald Trump is funny, though?
Oh, yeah. Yes, again. If Donald Trump wasn't running for president, it would be funny. Let's just say, let's say Donald Trump was on a show like The Apprentice, okay? But he wasn't in charge, okay? Let's pretend... who's my favorite businessman? I always talk about him.
Your favorite, Kevin Smith?
Businessman.
Businessman.
Mark Cuban.
Mark Cuban, okay.
Let's say that Mark Cuban was the leader of The Apprentice, and Donald Trump was one of the 13 people. I guarantee you that would be funny as hell. It'd be like, I reject what you say, Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban, I should be firing you. You not firing. You see what I'm saying?
So you're saying, I don't know if you remember a guy named, I think his name was Pat Paulson, who would run for president.
Every 4 years.
As a joke. You know who I'm talking about.
Pat Paul, and he would run every year for 30 years. Or every 4 years.
As a joke.
Right.
So you're saying that's what Trump should have done. He shouldn't have run seriously. He should have just run as a joke.
Yeah. And then he probably would have... When Pat Paulson ran, didn't he gain 2% one year? It was wasn't he the head? Now, if we weren't using the computer to do it, we'd look it up. But Pat Paulson, if I'm correct, in 1968 or 72, got 2% of the vote, and he was the leader of the party.
Yeah,
right.
The only reason I know who he is because I think he was affiliated with the Smothers Brothers.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Because I remember one of the things he said that, he was talking about when he was going around, meeting people, running for president. He said he was busy kissing hands and shaking babies.
But Ted, that's the whole thing. I'm sorry. That just sunk in. That's the whole thing. Rolling Stone... Right now, you know what you should do when we get done here? You should send in your resume, and you could do an article for RollingStone.com about Pat Paulson. And they'd be like, we like Ted. And don't tell them you're a Trump supporter, because then you would be out. Yeah. Say that you love Hillary, and you love music from the 60s and 70s, and basically as soon as Nirvana came, everything ended. So...
I think another one of the things Pat Paulson said was he was talking about Social Security, and what a problem it was. He said, Social Security was started, to take care of the old person problem, and now we have more old people than ever.
Yes, but see... In
other words, it wasn't working.
Yeah, but Ted, that's the whole thing. We should be laughing at Trump. It shouldn't be this serious. You know what I mean? We should be having a good old time at his expense. It's like everything slants to how it affects a person, right? It's like Donald Trump is getting over at our expense. We should be having fun at his expense, not vice versa. He's having fun at our expense. And at the end of the day, even when he loses, okay? Even when he loses. Now, let me... I don't know if these numbers are right, but we'll just throw it out there. Let's say that Donald Trump gets skunked, okay? Let's say he loses the election. Gary Johnson trends downward. He only gets 6%. And then that way, Hillary gets around 50%. That would mean he would get around,
I don't know, 40%.
Around
maybe?
40%. If he gets 40%, that still means 40 million people voted for him. Okay? That means 40 million people thought he was the best choice to run this country. Okay? Or if it's 80 million, I'm sorry that my math is off, but you understand what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
That's still a huge power thing that he has for the future. In the future, he's got 40 million people, including Ted Coley, who are going to be like, I want to know what Donald Trump does next. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
He still wins. I still feel like Donald Trump, even if he loses, is going to get over on us. You know what I mean? We have 4 people listening to us, and I've hardly... Well, I won't say. I'm gonna bypass the easy shot. But again, part of my thing is jealousy. Jealousy is one of the 7 deadly sins, and I'm upset.
Is it really?
Yeah. Okay, let me think. One is envy. So jealousy, envy, same thing. One is sloth. One is gluttony. I'm trying to think of the movie 7. Sloth, gluttony. See, we could just look it up, but you should have this memorized.
Greed?
Greed, yep. But Donald Trump, he's a glutton, greed. I mean, 7 deadly sins. I got less deadly sins than Donald Trump does. Should SNL be canceled?
No, it's too late.
SNL, when it came on TV, and this is I want to tie this up. NBC literally had dead air on Saturday nights. Would you say that's fair?
Before SNL?
Yeah, in 1977.
Or yeah, I would assume. I couldn't even tell you. I wonder what was even on.
Right.
I mean,
and
what was it, like reruns of Mary Hartman?
Yeah,
or maybe it was the actual show was on.
But so they took a gamble with this little comedy show, right? And at the end of the first year, they could barely keep them in place. They said that the inmates were running the inmates were running the asylum. I remember when John Belushi on the second year, they had a punk band called, I think it was Fear, came on and almost burned the studios down. I mean, it was year to year. The first couple of years, are they going to cancel SNL, right? And then once the first group left, Chevy and John Belushi, and once they were all gone, they were like, will SNL survive?
Yeah.
In the mid-'80s, wasn't it like 84, and they had that horrible, they had 7 comedians who were horrible?
Yeah.
And one of them was like Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
And they said,
somewhere around the mid-'80s,
will SNL...
85.
But somehow, they stayed on the air, and then they became the institution that they were basically parodying. You know what I mean? They're not getting... I don't get the impression... Like, what was it?
Yeah, it was like Anthony Michael Hall was on there.
Anthony Michael Hall. But when they first started, the Not Ready for Primetime players were all in their 20s. They were all edgy. And they could barely contain them. Now they're getting comics, they're like 32 years old, and they're like, the first lesbian comic ever to be on SNL. Well, they're not getting the edgy comics any. You see what I'm saying? And they're like, oh, they got it. Andy Samberg when he was 19 years old. Well, I wouldn't exactly call him edgy. And again, they became the institution that they were rebelling against. And now, and I don't mean to pick on him because I just said how awesome Alec Baldwin is. But this past week, it was Alec Baldwin, who's got to be in his 50s, right?
Oh, yeah.
Alec Baldwin is hosting SNL. It's not the Not Ready for Primetime players. It's one of the greatest comedic actors of our generation in his 50s. SNL is now the institution that it rebelled against when it started.
Yeah.
Just like RollingStone.com is now the institution that it rebelled against when it was in the 60s.
Well, I remember Howard Stern saying that about Chevy Chase. He
Yeah.
goes, Chevy Chase has turned into the people he used to parody.
Yeah.
You know, because I guess he doesn't really have a sense of humor about himself. Or,
Nope. No, and how...
You know, I mean, they used to make fun of, you know, like Elizabeth Taylor and, you know,
and that's
Gerald Ford
And so I think SNL... And again, I can't say enough nice things about Alec Baldwin. Right? But Donald Trump, when he says they should be canceled, he's actually arguing my point, saying SNL's not what it used to be. Well, yeah, because it's hard for you to fight against a really good actor. If you get a 22-year-old who's, you know, doing a Donald Trump impersonation, it's horrible and it's absurd, right? Then, you know, it's easy to dismiss. I had Ted smiling because he's like,
no, did you actually see it last night?
I watched it today on the internet. I watched the clips. So I did not stay up late. I just watched the clips. So, excuse me. But does that make sense? Everything, it seems like once you grow it, it becomes what you hate. And SNL, when's the last time Bill Murray was on SNL?
Oh, God. I couldn't even tell you.
When's the last time, and I'm not talking about the 40th anniversary special or 30th anniversary. What was...
And what are you going to say, Aykroyd or...
Well, Dan Aykroyd, I think he has been on there once or twice. But,
recently?
Yes.
Yeah.
But, who's the guy on Two Broke Girls?
The guy on Two Broke Girls?
Yeah, Morris.
Boy. Oh, Garrett Morris.
Garrett Morris. When's the last time he was on Saturday Night Live as a host?
Was he ever on as a host?
I don't know if he's ever been on it. You see what I'm saying? They're not bringing those guys back.
Yeah.
They stick with Daryl Hammond, who's basically been on there for 17 years. And like I said, I don't want to badmouth the people I like. I like Daryl Hammond. But it is not the cutting-edge comedy that it once was.
Whenever I think of Garrett Morris, I always think of, you know, when he was, I think Chevy Chase or somebody was announcing something, and Garrett Morris was doing, you know, for the hearing impaired.
Oh,
he was just yelling everything.
Well, and that's the thing with Garrett Morris. That's what I don't understand. When I was a kid, I did not watch the old Saturday Night Live. But I've seen it, you know, when they rerun on VH1 or watch it on DVD or stuff. And Garrett Morris was a funny guy. I'm like, how come Garrett Morris never became Eddie Murphy before Eddie Murphy? You see what I'm saying? And how come Garrett Morris isn't back hosting SNL every 2 or 3 years? Hey, you remember me from back in the old days? I thought Garrett Morris was hysterical.
I think he's pretty old.
Well, he's old, but it's not like he's not working. He's on Two Guys and a Girl now. I keep saying Two Guys and a Girl. That's a show on ABC. Two Broke Girls is the show he's on, and that's on CBS.
He is on that show?
Yeah, he's on the show Two Broke Girls.
Yeah, because I've only seen that in passing, you know, that show.
And again, it goes back to, do they not want him? Is he not funny? Does he not want to do it? Is he too edgy? You know, what's the reason? Okay. Now, I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Now, right here is Fred's top 100 songs of all time on this sheet of paper. Can you hear that?
Yeah.
My 100 favorite songs of all time.
And they're all written out? You got 100 songs?
They're all written out. I'm gonna make you read it. Not right now. I'm not gonna make you read 100 songs. No. But I'm gonna tell you right now. Do you know how many Bob Dylan songs are on this top 100 list?
If it's your list?
My list.
0?
0. You know how many Beatles songs are on this list?
Beatles?
Yes.
I'll say 3.
0.
Oh, come on.
There's almost nobody before
Or is it all Alice
1975.
Donut songs or something?
It's mostly Alice Donut. There's some like I like the Clash. They're from the '70s. There's some Clash stuff. There's Kansas. Some older stuff. I got the Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald by Gordon Lightfoot.
Yeah, I like that song.
Yeah. So, like right here, number 58, the Ramones. Okay, you know the Ramones. You might not like them, but they're from the '70s, right? The point is let's say that I dictated what songs are the top songs of all time. You see what I'm saying? Bob Dylan would be basically Rolling Stone. Let's flip it over, okay? I'm as powerful as RollingStone.com, and Rolling Stone is Fred Hunt, okay? Bob Dylan would be the equivalent of Alice Donut. That's all there is to it. The guy tries really hard. He keeps trying, but he's got his own distinct voice, and he's an acquired taste. Now, if I had 1 million people listening, they'd be like, I don't know, Bob Dylan's the same as Alice Donut. But to me, it's the same thing. It is the same exact thing. Alice Donut, their lyrics are as complex and diverse as Bob Dylan's lyrics, and all Alice Donut does is they talk about the dark side of Americana. Prostitutes dying alone, drug abuse, child molestation. The dark side, but not seriously, kind of tongue-in-cheek punk sarcasm, right? But I mean, as far as I'm concerned, they captured the dark side of Americana as good as Bob Dylan captured, the Great Plains Americana. If I had the magic wand, I'd be like, twang. Bob Dylan wouldn't be getting all those awards. He'd be living in a shack, and he'd be strumming his guitar, getting high in Duluth, Minnesota, saying, "I'm going to Minneapolis, and I'm going to play a song. Or I'm going to play a concert to 55 people, and they're all going to be old hippies." But so anyhow, on my list...
Poor Bob Dylan. He didn't ask for any of this.
No, but it would be funny if Bob Dylan listened to this and he was like, you know what? I really don't like this beacon of speech. Everybody tells me how great I am, except for one guy in Cleveland, Ohio, who seems to have a hard-on about telling everybody what a jerk I am. And I'm not a jerk. I'm just a journeyman who just likes to, ride the rails and get high a little bit.
See, and theoretically, the way technology is now, it's possible that somebody like that could come across this show.
Right.
You know what I mean? I mean, it's a needle in a haystack, but
the whole thing is that I put the outline on, right? I put the outline on YouTube. So in theory, okay, he could Google. Let's pretend like Bob Dylan is an egomaniac. I don't know if he is or not, but he's like types in Bob Dylan. All of a sudden, Beacon of Speech number 40 comes up, and then it says Bob Dylan horrible. And he's like, Bob Dylan horrible?
No, I'm not.
I've never seen that before. I don't think that's ever happened. So he turns on Beacon of Speech, and they hear us talking about Trump, and he's like, you know what? I think Fred Hunt might be the biggest a-hole there ever was. If it wasn't for my 20... I only have 20 friends, and they all work for Rolling Stone magazine... And they tell me how great I am. Literally, they send me emails. Can you send me your demos because you're great? Okay? You know how many demos I ever got from a band? I stole a demo from Anthrax back in the 80s because my friend worked at a college station, and the college station had promoted Anthrax. And so they got a demo like 2 weeks before the album came out. It was before the age of iTunes and the internet and stuff. And I grabbed that demo and I hugged it. I'm like, I got a demo of Anthrax. It's the greatest thing ever. Right? But that's how, Bob Dylan, he has sycophants like that. Can you send me your demo? You're awesome. We can't wait to give you 5 stars, a perfect album rating. I'm going to hand you this. And these are, now you're going to be confused, okay? Because you probably don't even know the bands from the... I'm going to circle the bands, okay? But these are the top 17 Okay, I'm circling the bands. Okay, I am circling the bands. Now, because they're my favorite songs, some of these bands I like more than others. But these are the 17 of my favorite songs, and the people I circled are the bands. Now, you can read the 17 out loud. We're not going to do 100, but tell me how many you've heard of. Just from 17 down to 1.
Should I read them off?
Yeah, read off the circle names slowly and tell me if you've heard of them.
Are you talking about read off the band names?
Yeah, just the band name, not the song.
Tool?
Tool. Are you familiar with Tool?
I've heard of them.
Okay, Tool, okay, they haven't put out an album in 10 years, and I guarantee you the album they put out will be better than Bob Dylan.
Melvins?
Are you familiar with them?
I've heard of them.
Okay, keep going.
Scraping Fetus from the Wheel.
Now, I don't, that is an anomaly because I love that song, but I'm not a big Scraping Fetus from the Wheel
I've
fan.
never heard of them.
Okay, go ahead.
Primus, I've heard of them.
Yeah.
Megadeth, I've heard of them. Pearl Jam,
Right.
heard of them. Sugar?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
Alice in Chains, yes. Ministry, yes. Soundgarden, yes. Nomeansno.
Yes.
The only reason I know is
Just
because
from
of you.
making a speech, yeah.
Jane's Addiction, yes. Alice Donut, once again, only known because of you. Smashing Pumpkins, yes. 9 Inch Nails, yes. Slipknot, yes. Anthrax, yes.
We were just talking about.
Now, like half of those bands that I said yes to, I don't know anything about them. I have just heard of them.
Right. Now, the reason I bring this up, now, I am running the Beacon of Speech, and it splits in half. Me and you do Beacon of Speech, and we're talking about politics, and then I'm going to have Beacon of Speech 2, and it's just going to be people talking about music, okay? Now, I'm going to hire these kids straight out of college. They're 23 years old, right? They come in. Hey, 23-year-old, who do you like? Now, if those 23-year-olds are not familiar with any of these 17 bands, they're not working for Beacon of Speech 2, the music version. You see what I'm saying? And it goes back to what we were talking about with Rolling Stone. Now, you get a 23-year-old kid in here. He says, you know who the greatest band of all time is? It's Alice Donut. And Alice Donut are the greatest underrated geniuses of the late 80s, early 90s. Not only is that kid hired, but he's the highest paid kid at Beacon of Speech too. Right there. You know, they're listening. They're like, oh, I really want to work at Beacon of Speech. Have Fred Hunt, he throws money around. Now, let's go on the record. We have no money. Okay? But say I won the lottery. Okay? Now, again, that's the mentality of RollingStone.com to a lesser extent, and then a bigger extent to CNN. I mean, I can't beat the analogy into the ground and not enough. Literally, today is horse beating day. Okay? It's this corporate groupthink. One day, I'll be a big corporation. Not really. One day, I'll be a big corporation. Everybody's going to think the way that I do. That's the American dream. Now, I don't want everybody to think like I do, but maybe they will. Maybe I will get a big head and I will be sitting on a big fat ton of money, right? And I'll be like, I am only going to hire sycophants. And that's the way it is. And Ted, you might be the same way. You might be like, you know what? I don't know why Fred bitch about corporations so much. I like having 50 sycophants under me telling me how great I am. But that's the American way. How many, let me ask you this, and we're going to go back to Trump. How many sycophants do you think that Donald Trump has who tells him that he's great every day?
Probably everybody around him.
Yes. Donald Trump, the day that he had all those sexual harassment things come out, Donald Trump said that he walked out the door that morning and he met voters who said, keep up the fight, we still believe in you. Okay? The people who hated him either didn't show up or the cops were keeping him away from the house. Again, sycophants. Donald Trump, in his mind, thinks all I hear all day is people telling me how great I am. And all these jerks at CNN, all they're doing is telling me I shouldn't be touching these women. And if they had a problem with me touching these women, they should have said so in 2004.
Oh, man, that's funny.
I
I
think it's funny that
assume
we're gonna
that
have
he's the type of
sycophants.
person who, if somebody's not, telling him how great he is, they're gone.
Yeah. Oh, I'm going to turn this back on you, Ted. You work for Donald Trump.
And
okay?
I'm a Trump supporter.
Yeah.
And I think that.
You work for Donald Trump. If you are a free thinker and you're not telling Donald Trump how great he is, you're just saying, I think okay, we'll use the golf course in Scotland. Did you ever hear the story about the golf course in Scotland?
I may have, but refresh my memory.
The story is that somewhere in Scotland there were these beautiful bluffs, and there was it was a beautiful, unspoiled Scottish shoreline, but it's 50 degrees and cold. It's Scotland.
Yeah.
Donald Trump says, I'm going to come to Scotland, I'm going to give you $20 million and build a golf course. And the Scottish government said, we'll take your $20 million, we want the tourism, we want the exposure. And then he said, I am going to put the golf club right on your beautiful, unspoiled bluffs. And the Scottish government was like, oh, no, you can we want your money, and we want the recognition, but we don't want the golf course on our nice, unspoiled bluffs.
What are bluffs?
Just cliffs on the edge of the ocean. And he was like, oh, too late. I'm going to put them there. You said you wanted them. And they said, no, we don't want them. Keep your money. He's like, no, you already told me yes, and they're beautiful, unspoiled. And they're like, yeah, we don't. They're beautiful, unspoiled bluffs. There are unspoiled bluffs, right? Now, that went to court. There was a huge fight, okay? Pretend like you work for Donald Trump, and you said, you know what, Donald Trump? I think it's a great idea that you put in a golf course in Scotland, but at the end of the day, it's probably not worth the fight. It's probably not worth the bad publicity. I know you want to do it, but if you look at big picture, I think it might be a net loss for the brand. Somebody who is rational. How many seconds after you say that big picture, you don't think it's a good idea, how many seconds do you think you work for Donald Trump?
Like 3.
Yeah. I think he literally says, if you don't believe in what I'm doing, there's the door, and don't let the knob hit you in the ass. And that's why I've said the word sycophant, at least, you know what, I'm going to write it down for the outline. The word of the day is sycophant. So
you're still voting for Gary Johnson?
I'm still voting for Gary Johnson. He's actually going down in the polls because people keep going. You're wasting your vote. It's too important.
I thought you were going to say because they keep asking him questions about cities.
Oh, no. He's losing traction because the Hillary people keep saying that it's too important to throw your vote away. You have to stop Donald Trump. And some of the Gary Johnson people are buying it and saying, well, we don't want a guy who sexually abuses women in the White House. We'll vote for Gary Johnson when he runs next time and make our statement.
Now, have you heard of and I'm not sure if I'm going to get the name right, there's another candidate, I think his name's McMullen?
Yes.
Is that it, McMullen?
Yes.
What is it, Evan?
Yes.
I heard that he's doing pretty well, like in Utah, or...
Yes.
But what is Utah?
I do not...
5 electoral votes? Or...
Oh, well, I do not want to talk about McMullen, and I'll tell you why. Okay? And I'm mad. Okay? I actually wrote an article on the Beacon of Speech blog. Evan McMullen came out in June and said, I'm running for president. Why was Evan McMullen running for president?
I don't know.
He was running for president because somehow in June of 2016, he figured out that Donald Trump is a horrible candidate. Okay? He is basically a Republican insider. Okay? So and I'm using air quotes, Evan McMullin left the Republican Party to run against Donald Trump as this is the guy who if in a perfect world, we would want people to vote for.
Right.
Right? The problem is he decided so late he couldn't get on the ballot in 50 states. So the article that I wrote said, is Evan McMullin running against Trump, or is he trying to steal the Gary Johnson vote? You see what I'm saying? Because the Republicans don't want Gary Johnson to get 5%, neither do Democrats. They don't want him to get 5% of the vote because then he gets matching funds in 2020. They don't want him to get the matching funds. And that's why if Jill Stein gets the 5%, she gets matching funds. They don't want that either. They want Republicans and Democrats. They're in self-preservation mode. And to me, Evan McMullin, if he cared that much about America, he would have run because he was a Republican. The whole time he was a Republican, and he said, I'm running. I think he ran to steal votes, third-party votes. He needed to steal enough Gary Johnson votes that he didn't hit 5%, and then he goes back, and he's like, I'm back in with the Republican Party. So...
See, now, Gary Johnson's another one. Every time I hear his name now, I laugh.
Well, you know what, Gary...
Because of what you said they were doing to him, because of how he couldn't...
When they were running the pop quizzes, they're still doing it. and it's funny because, again, he's my guy, but he's not... Like I said, he's not the contestant in a game show. You know what I mean? And that's why we played game show last week. Because he's just not good at it. Some people are good at some things. Like I read an article today. Gary Johnson... he ran, I guess he didn't get his workout in, so he went on a 70-mile bike ride, and then when he was done, he did his press conference in bike shorts and a t-shirt. Okay? So they were making fun of him. What's more important to Gary Johnson, taking a bike ride or running the country? And I'm like, that's exactly what I'm talking about by media bias. Again, whether he took a bike ride or not should be immaterial.
Yeah, I mean, if it was Hillary Clinton that did the exact same thing, they would be praising her.
Because she's living the athletic lifestyle, and again, it's the angle you're playing. Yep. And I think the one thing that
yeah, and if somebody made fun of Hillary for doing that, they'd probably turn it into... What, you don't think women should be involved in sports? Or,
right.
What are you, sexist? Or...
And it wasn't CNN, but it was like MSNBC or something. Doesn't Gary Johnson look funny in bike shorts? But again, think of me or you are in bike shorts. Gary Johnson, there's a few times he doesn't do himself any favors. But again, there's a big difference between the ambassador of Benghazi being killed and wearing bike shorts to a press conference. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
And again, that's why I feel for Trump, even though I don't like him.
And I'm not picking on Gary Johnson because most of the time when I think of Donald Trump, I laugh too.
But that's the whole thing.
Because they're both comical to me.
Ted, you are every man. When every man looks at Gary Johnson and they laugh, that upsets me. But you are in the majority. I am in the minority. I'm the minority speaking here. The people who are like, Gary Johnson, people should be praising him for living the healthy lifestyle, but they're not. I'm sorry, I just looked at the clock. Ted, we're going to have to wrap this up. I'm putting...
Did I tell you that Dennis Miller was... making fun of Gary Johnson, and Dennis Miller said something like Gary Johnson thought Aleppo was the fourth Marx brother.
But yes, I can't. That is funny. Some people don't like Dennis Miller. But again, back to Alec Baldwin. When you think of smart comedians, like you have to have brain cells, Dennis Miller is one of the funniest guys out there, just flat out. Okay? He is a funny guy. And if you don't like his politics, he's still, he might rattle off something about the Ottoman Empire in the 12th century. And it's like, that's funny because it's true, but not that, people are like, what's the Ottoman Empire? Yeah. They don't get it. I'm going to give you this list, okay? This list, this is 84 through 1. You can look at it, but you don't have to, okay? I want to do one or two last quick things, okay, before we go. So I saw the clock. Let me do the one or two quick things. Our song of the day is number 97 on my list, okay? The song. This is a dedication to me and you, Ted. We are Beacon of Speech. The name of the song is We Are One. It's by, one second, I gotta make sure I type this back in. So the feed almost shut down.
I wonder why that is.
Yeah, I don't know why that is either. Oh, there we go. Are we still playing? Yeah, it's still moving. We Are One. We Are Beacon of Speech. That's the name of the song. The band, it's two singers. It's Buckethead. Are you familiar with the guitarist Buckethead?
Yeah.
And the lead singer of System of a Down, Serge Tankian. I can't remember his last name, but his first name is Serge. Buckethead and Serge sing the song We Are One. It is my 97th favorite song of all time. If you get a chance, that song is flippin' awesome. Okay, so that's going to be our song of the day. I have a prediction. Ted, you literally don't care about this, so it's going to be a 30-second prediction. Last year, we did Swansea City. Mm-hmm. That was our Premier League team. They hired Bob Bradley. He's the first American to ever coach in the Premier League. So I'm making a prediction. They hired him. Swansea City's in 17th. I predict they will be in 16th. That will literally make no difference whatsoever. So that's my prediction. We'll open that back up next year.
And do you want to mention about the Indians and the Blue Jays?
Yes, I do. Real quick, Indians and Blue Jays. The Cubs. That's gonna basically the Indians are up 2-0. When we made the predictions, I predicted it was going to be the Blue Jays and the Cubs, and you said it was going to be the Indians and the Cubs.
Right.
So unless the Cubs lose, one of us will be right.
Who are the Cubs playing?
LA Dodgers.
Okay,
I think it's early in the series. I think the first game was last night, and I didn't see the score. Okay. So if the Cubs win, okay.
Now, the question I have for you is, I think I remember what I said. I said it was going to be the Indians and the Cubs were going to win in 7 games.
Right.
And you said it was going to be the Blue Jays and the Cubs?
Right.
And who did you say?
I think I said Cubs, but I wrote it down, so we'll look. But yeah, that'll be coming out in... So I'll tell you what, for making the prediction at game 130, we did it pretty good.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, not too bad. Especially you, because the Blue Jays were they the...
When I made the prediction, they were 1 game out of the wild card.
They were the wild card team, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And so they came out of the wild card, yes. So we used to talk about magazines until the election, and we'll go back to talking about magazines after the election. But last week's Sports Illustrated... the cover is Cubs win 1908, and then it's crossed out and says 2016. Well, that's nice that they made the prediction literally 2 weeks beforehand. You know what I mean? So we beat Sports Illustrated. But Sports Illustrated is chock full of golf, it's chock full of football, and chock full of baseball. Well, what starts next week?
Basketball.
Hockey season.
Oh.
Sports Illustrated. Guess how...
Basketball starts too, right?
Yes, basketball, but I don't care about basketball. Okay? We're talking about things Fred cares about, because this is Beacon of Speech. This is for me and you. Sports Illustrated has their NHL preview, okay, for the whole 2016-2017 season. Now, Sports Illustrated is another multinational corporation that only talks about things they care about, like football and baseball, you wouldn't even know that there's minor sports in Sports Illustrated unless it was like a feel-good story or somebody molested 20 kids in in Canada or something, right? How long do you think their NHL preview was in Sports Illustrated for the whole season? Not a story.
How many pages?
Yeah, how many pages is their NHL preview?
1.
4 pages. Look right here. Sports Illustrated, 2 pages. 1 page is a picture. 2-page preview of the Eastern Conference. 2-page preview of the Western Conference. You notice there's a big preview there.
Yeah.
And there's animation here. So it's 2 pages of words of the 20. Because I read an article about Gary Bettman about how he's been commissioner for 20 years or something. And he has run hockey into the ground. Hockey used to be a major sport. And now it's a niche sport. Okay? But I'm going to write this down once we stop it. Basically, we're going to see how close. Sports Illustrated does not give a crap about hockey. They can have like an NFL preview that's like 3 magazines long. Okay?
Yeah.
And their hockey preview, because I've given you some of the Sports Illustrated, they'll do a 10-page story about the punter on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Okay? NHL gets 4 pages for their whole season. Okay? So I'm going to mark down 1 through 16. And we're going to see how close idiots at Sports Illustrated who don't even care about hockey, we're going to see how close they are. So I'm going to write that down off air. We got our song of the day. We got the prediction about soccer. Do you want to make any more predictions? Don't make any more about baseball because ours are already in stone.
Do you want
to make any more predictions before we tie it up?
No, nothing leaps to mind.
Okay. Ted, I have been a bulldozer today because I have been cranky as hell today. So I thank you for your time. Remember, Beacon of Speech is Ted Coley, Fred Hunt, and sometimes Joe Kaufman.